Good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Novak, and welcome to this Senate candidate edition of Point of Reference. Tonight, a brief glimpse of the 7 candidates running for office, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. We're talking right now with Attorney James Kelcourse. He's an Amesbury City Councilor and vying for the Senate seat in the 1st Essex District. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Novak, for having me.
We're going to get to some rapid-fire questions, see if we can get through as many as we can.
Sure.
Those who employ should be afforded relief from increasing costs of doing business. This is a quote that you happen to make. How should they be afforded relief from the cost of doing business?
Well, that's a very good question. I think businesses should be rewarded by employing people. I think we can do that by, giving some businesses some other incentives and tax relief to be able to put people to work. Because let's face it, we have a high unemployment rate, not only in the state of Massachusetts, but also within the nation. So I think what we need to do is we need to get people back to work, and doing so, we need to give business incentives, whether that be relief from some lengthy processes within the local governments to build and develop new businesses in which to employ people, or by giving them some other creative tax incentives and breaks in order to put people to work.
Could you give us an example of one of those tax incentives or a tax break? What would that be?
Let's say, for instance, in the city of Amesbury, we have, and so does every other town throughout the Commonwealth, putting up a new structure, for instance. Maybe planning and development could streamline the process. I know we've looked at streamlining the process in our town or in our city now to be able to put new structures up in which people will be able to go later apply and go to work. I think streamlining the process is one way we could do it. I think by giving individuals tax credits, maybe some relief from their unemployment taxes or unemployment insurance to be able to put people to work. Because if we're taking people off unemployment and putting them back to work, maybe we can give some credits and incentives that way. Just one of the other examples of the cost of doing business here in the Commonwealth.
Okay, educational funding. Who should get it, and how would you measure the amount?
Well, it's a complex matter, and I think it takes, it's going to take a real creative solution. There is no easy solution to that. You have some communities that do desperately need the funds, but because they might have some waterfront properties, for instance, those properties are going to cause the level of funding, if we change it, to decrease, and then go to other communities that also desperately need it. So we really need to take a really close look at that before we step in and change that system, because there are still going to be those who need that funding that are going to lose that funding if we change it too much. So we've got to be very, very careful in dealing with that.
You said that voters are looking for someone who's aware of local issues like property taxes. How would you, as a state senator, impact local property taxes? I
think impacting local property taxes, Mr. Novak, could be done by expanding the commercial industrial tax base. And what that's going to also do, in addition to alleviating the burden that the residential taxpayer realizes, it's going to create jobs and reduce unemployment. So I think it's going to have a good effect. I think that effect is going to be multiple fold. Not only are you going to not be putting kids into school, because businesses aren't going to be putting the kids into school. Businesses usually don't, they have their own waste management contract, for instance, or disposal contracts, so they're not using the waste management disposal services of the town, the trash pickup, and they're not putting kids into school. But it's another source of revenue funding for the towns in which to offset the burden on the residential taxpayer.
So what we're talking about here is essentially a ripple effect.
Is a ripple effect, exactly.
Okay. Under our healthcare system, statistically, 1 in 4 tests doctors order are not necessary, driving healthcare costs higher. But they do it as a defensive mechanism so as not to be sued. You're an attorney. Would you push for tort reform, and if so, how would you do it in a legislature dominated by attorneys?
I think there's a simple solution to that. Actually, we do have a very good system here now in which medical malpractice claims have to go before a board before it's determined, and then if you still want to proceed, then you have to bond it and pay a certain amount in which to proceed forward. I think we can look at ways in which to limit the amount of lawsuits, further limiting the ability. But again, there are some instances where individuals are seriously injured or hurt as a result of malpractice, and they're entitled to due process and potential damages. So that's, again, something we can take a peek at, but I think doctors are crossing their I's and dotting their crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and certainly doing things to be very, very careful. And that's a good thing too, because you don't want to be too quick to make a poor judgment call.
EBT cards, should we keep it the same, change it, and if so, how? Would you favor cash out items or restricted product use?
Exactly. I think EBT reform is definitely necessary. I mean, welfare reform, creative welfare reform is necessary. There are those that need it. We need to take care of our sick, our elderly, those individuals who do need, the services, but we also need to retrain, motivate, and get those individuals back off the system and into the system in which they're contributing positively to society. But there does need to be some, good welfare reform and EBT reform.
Historically, elected officials garner favor by how much they can give you. Given the state of the economy, practical application suggests the opposite. What could people expect to have taken away from them because of the economic considerations?
Look at, with respect to anything here in society, we have to come up with smart, creative solutions. We have to be very, very careful in the way in which we do things. Going back to, EBT reform, it's obvious that there are individuals that, need the services, but there are individuals that are taking advantage of the system. We need to be very mindful and careful of those who are taking advantage of the system and come up with ways in which to stop abuse and to really take care of those who do need, the services in which the Commonwealth provides.
In just 30 seconds left, in this tough economy, have you had to make any sacrifices? And if so, can you give us an example?
I have to make sacrifices all the time. My wife and I have to put off painting the house. It's a difficult economy. We'll do it when we can afford it. And I think, state government and federal government has to exercise the same discretion. If they want to make things and correct things and do things, they can start by correcting the way in which we just use the taxpayer as a credit card. There is a limit. There's only so far that we can go. We can't go any further without bankrupting the system, and I think we just have to exercise good fiscal judgment and responsibility in moving forward and getting the job done that the taxpayers deserve.
Excellent. Attorney James Kelcourse, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And your run as an independent for the Senate seat for the 1st Essex District.
Thanks
very much. We'll be back in just a moment. I hope that you've listened and learned in an effort to help you decide which candidate to support in the upcoming election. And on Election Day, remember to vote, because if you don't vote, you don't count, and everyone should count. And as always, we hope that this program has been a point of reference for you. And until next time, my name is Frank Novak, and thanks very much for watching.